just because you were a high school football star doesn't mean that 30 years later, you're still a high school football star in the same shape, Bitcoin or Ethereum. I would say 9 times out of 10, Ethereum is going to win the fight against Bitcoin. So the problem with Bitcoin is it is so slow. It's like the mainframe programming of the past. And it's the only reason it's still around is because there was so much invested in keeping it around that we just kind of have to leave it there. And one day COBOL will die. There's nothing about it from a collection of USPs that's particularly desirable. You have extremely long settlement time. You have extremely low programmability. It is not aware of any other system. There's no native way of issuing an asset in that system. You can't even do a pull transaction. I mean, you can't do anything that's interesting or unique there. And yeah, all due respect, it's, Mafia, all due respect, Tony. You got some problems.
You
need
come
to lose
to me
some weight.
on the day of my daughter's wedding.
I know. So, all due respect to the Bitcoin people, it's like an amazing, incredible first generation thing. And we're all here because of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But the problem is you have to upgrade the damn thing. Just because you were a high school football star doesn't mean that 30 years later, you're still a high school football star in the same shape. You got the beer belly, you're old, you're not doing this thing again. And that's what Bitcoin has to do. There's fundamental improvements that I think Bitcoin can make at the protocol level that would actually make it an incredibly competitive system. Like if they wanted to keep Nakamoto consensus, proof of work, there's ways to enhance proof of work. I mean, Amin Gansir did this with Bitcoin NG. Pramod Viswanas did this with Prism. Make it 10,000 times faster, and you don't compromise the fundamental security assumptions that the system has. You can add programmability to it. Blockstream created a language called Simplicity. So there's actual ways to extend, and we did this with Cardano with the extended UTXO model. There's ways to extend what Bitcoin has, keep the philosophy, the accounting, the way of thinking about transactions, but then suddenly you can now do DeFi and other things. But what they've done is said, we will not evolve the base layer at all, and we're just going to build all this layer 2 stuff, which is usually highly fragile and centralized and requires enormous effort at the base level to do anything. It's not a coincidence Vitalik started as a color coins guy and a master coin guy, hanging out in those circles. He was trying to innovate and do things in Bitcoin, and it was so hard and difficult that he started diverging and going and doing things in a different system entirely. I knew the Mastercoin guys, JR, and all these people. They were maximalists. They really wanted to build something cool and exciting for Bitcoin. And anything they did, the developers would attack them. It's, you're misusing op return. You're doing this, that. It was a holy war anytime you wanted to evolve. So I think it's its own worst enemy. It has the network effect. It has the brand name. It has the regulatory approval. But there's no way to change the system, even correcting obvious downsides in that system. Now, what's really cool is Ethereum doesn't suffer from that problem. It's getting to a point where it has a similar network effect to Bitcoin, but the community there is completely different in culture. They love evolving. They love upgrading, sometimes a little too much. And so that means that if you look at the trajectory of things, if I had to bet just those two systems, Bitcoin or Ethereum, I would say 9 times out of 10, Ethereum is going to win the fight against Bitcoin if it was the only competitor. But obviously we're here and a lot of other people are here. So there's different things going on. So it's a much more complex game. But I think that's always the key, zooming out a little bit, set the technology aside and the word salad of cryptography aside, because it's too much. What you have to always do is say, what incentive does the system have to evolve? And when you look at things like Android and the App Store and these analogous platforms, you say, the evolution is user-driven, and there's a financial incentive for the user to participate. So if I had to look at the trajectory of this thing, come back 10 years later, it's probably going to have millions of applications and lots of stuff going on because that's the way the system was constructed. Okay, it makes sense. When you look at Bitcoin, you say, what is the incentive to evolve the system? There's none. What is the incentive for the system to get more competitive? It's not. In fact, it's the opposite. They've turned it into a religion. I was in Miami at this Bitcoin conference there. I had a toilet paper roll thrown at me that had shitcoin written on it. You have Max Kaiser out on the stage, doing his best Rick James impression.
Was he the guy that did the F Elon?
Yes,
Elon?
yes. And so
wonderful.
you're watching this stuff and you say, okay, first, why would anybody want to join that? And then second, where is the conversation about how do we achieve something? I started with Cardano the end in mind. I said, we really want to sit down and build this financial operating system. And the definition of success is the poorest person in the world has access to the same system as the richest person in the world, and they both get treated fairly. We've never had that happen before. Okay, that's something. You can agree with it, disagree with it, say it's boiling the ocean, it's impossible. At least I have something. I can't for the life of me understand what the hell is the point of Bitcoin. When I joined the Bitcoin space way back in the day, it was, hey, we hate the dollar, and hey, we like gold a lot. Let's create digital gold. Let's build a payment system. And then it just kind of went all these different directions, and nobody can actually tell you what Bitcoin is for. It's a store of value, okay. There's some proof of work thing where maybe you're like incentivizing alternative energy to be produced. I don't know. It's like nobody really knows the philosophy. There's no direction. And they say, but don't worry, just buy and hold, and everything will sort its way out.